On May 7th of 2007, a man was at home working on setting up a baby monitor for his baby. He couldn't figure out how to hook it up. He was having technical difficulties. He's messing around trying to figure it out when suddenly an image shows up on the monitor. But the man did not recognize the boy on the screen. It wasn't his baby and it wasn't his house. On the screen was a little boy lying on the floor, unclothed, looking very, very unwell, tied up like a prisoner, eating what looked to be scraps off of the floor. The man is thinking, this looks like a scene from a scary movie. There's absolutely no way that this is real. He brings in his wife. He shows her. They realize the monitor is picking up a live feed from somewhere else, probably likely from a house nearby, and the reality behind that little boy was way worse than you could ever imagine. Quick pause for an intro. The mic is back by popular demand, although I almost didn't bring it back because, guys, my nails aren't done and I'm embarrassed. This is why I'm holding it like this. Should I show you? It's pretty bad. Okay, look, you can't take a screenshot though. That's enough. I'm also in a really weird mood because I started 75 hard. I don't know why people do this. I'm miserable. My body hurts and I've never craved a sweet treat more in my whole entire life. This is silly. Anyway, this story has to be one of the craziest ones that I've ever researched. That being said, I do have to give a warning. This video does include children, which can be a really sensitive topic. So if you think that that's going to harm your mental health in any way, please skip this video and I will see you in my next one. Love you. The Malrova family. This happens in the Czech Republic. This is the case that the movie The Orphan was inspired by, if it gives you any sort of idea of what we're going to be speaking about today. The family consisted of Clara and her two young sons. Their father left the picture pretty early on. Years later, Clara, along with the two boys, moved in with her sister, Katarina. But let's take it back to where it all started. How did we get here? Clara and her older sister, Katarina, were born and raised in the Czech Republic. They did have a third sister who was the middle child. Clara was the youngest, Katarina was the oldest. They grew up in a very religious household, and when they were teenagers, Clara and Katarina began having dreams and visions from a higher power informing them that they were the chosen ones. We've heard this before. But said dreams and visions were not good, and it was even worse that the sisters truly believed them. I will give you an example. One time, Clara was told in a dream or in a vision that she had healing powers. To test that, she was found attempting to suffocate her sister Katarina with a pillow, only because she wanted to be able to prove that if her sister successfully passed away, Clara would be able to bring her back to life using her powers, which is very extreme. If she wanted to show off her powers, maybe she could have started flying or something. I don't know. No need to literally end someone's life and then bring them back to life. It's quite unnecessary, but that is how much they believed in their powers. In the mid-90s, Clara was 18 years old. She had drifted away from her family at this point. She really had no contact with any of them. She meets a man, she falls in love, she marries him. At 20 years old, she gives birth to their first son, and 2 years later, they have their second son. Her life was fine. She was actually said to be a good, caring mom, which will be hard to believe, but I guess she was. So she was doing fine until she turned 26, and these dreams and these visions started to come back stronger than ever before. She really believed that she was chosen by God and destined to go on a mission from God. She started to see her children and her husband in a very negative light because she thought that they were distracting her from said mission. They were in the way. The husband quite literally just could not take Clara's delusions anymore, so he left. He's out of the picture. Clara keeps her two sons and she reconnects with her sister Katarina. They all move in together. Although Clara was what you would call delusional, she did take care of the boys. They were showered, they were bathed, they were fed, they were cared for, and they were loved. However, all of that would change. Katarina and Clara worked together at a daycare center where they would watch over children. One day, Katarina approaches Clara and says, "We have a new child, a 13-year-old girl named Anika that goes by Anna. She is from Norway. She is an orphan. She has a very troubled childhood. She has been through a lot of horrible, traumatic things in her past. She has no parents. She has leukemia, cancer, and she's not expected to live past the age of 16. She needs us. She needs someone to adopt her because she needs help." After hearing about her past, Clara feels bad for Anna and she agrees to adopt her immediately. She wanted to help her. By September of 2005, Clara has legally adopted Anna. They are now all living together as a family of 5. Clara, her sister Katarina, Clara's 2 sons, and now Anna. But because Anna has leukemia, she's seeing a doctor for her treatments. I say doctor because we don't really know who this person was, but I can tell you he was no doctor. At least I have suspicions that he wasn't, and I think you might have the same suspicions, but Clara, Anna's legal guardian, never took Anna to her treatments ever. She never saw this doctor, never met the doctor, never spoke to the doctor on the phone, but Clara would receive text messages from this doctor. Anna's doctor would tell Clara things to do to care for Anna. The doctor would instruct Clara to give Anna a lot of love and affection, an excessive amount of it because she was in need of it. He would tell Clara to buy Anna presents to make her feel loved. He would tell Clara that she had to give Anna daily massages, full body massages, and I mean full body, including intimate areas. The doctor told Clara that she was to do this every single night before bed, and she did. Clara would do this every single night. The massages would sometimes last as long as 8 hours. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. So the situation was very uncomfortable, for a lack of a better word, and it only made things worse that Anna demanded these things from Clara. This 13-year-old little girl was bossy, and on top of that, Anna did not like Clara's 2 other children, the boys. She would try to turn Clara against her 2 sons, and it would work. Clara stopped taking care of her boys, stopped taking care of herself, spent so much time dedicated to taking care of Anna, and in the process of it, she was becoming a shadow of a person. It really was the strangest thing. Anna seemed to know exactly how to manipulate Clara. She had a very mature way of psychologically torturing people to get what she wanted, almost as if she had a more developed way of thinking, almost as if she wasn't a young 13-year-old girl. That is because, you guessed it, she was not. Anna was no 13-year-old girl with cancer. Anna was a 33-year-old woman named Barbara Skrylova, I want to say that's how you pronounce the last name, manipulating everyone around her to pretend to be a child. Yeah, so let's take it back to 1974 when Barbara was born. She was born and raised in the Czech Republic with her parents and her 2 siblings. Her upbringing was rough. She was diagnosed with a few things such as dissociative identity disorder and schizophrenia, as well as, I'm gonna botch this word really bad, hypopituitarism. Basically, that means that a specific gland in her body did not make enough growth hormones, which is why and how she was able to pose as a child when in reality she was a 33-year-old adult. This is my point of view and my opinion as to how we get to where we do. Barbara's parents as a child did not give her attention, and as an adult, because she looked like a child, she was treated like one, and she hated that. So to get revenge on adults and additionally to get the attention that she so craved, she decided that she would pretend to be a child, to be an orphan, to get adopted to a nice loving family, because her using her diagnosis in a way that benefited her and made her feel like she was the one in control, that was satisfying to her. So that's exactly what she did. She actually tried to do it twice before successfully doing it to Clara, but the first time during the adoption process, the truth was revealed. She was admitted to a psychiatric hospital for obvious reasons, but she escaped. She tried to do the same thing again. She was sent back to the psychiatric hospital by her parents and authorities, and she spent some time there, but then was released. When she was released, she met Katerina, Clara's sister. When Barbara met Katerina, she introduced herself as her true self, Barbara, an adult, who was in her 30s, but one day, all of a sudden, Barbara tells Katerina about this thing that she likes to do. She says, I have this thing. I sometimes like to pretend to be a child, and I like to get adopted, and I would like to do that again now, so can you help me? And for whatever reason, Katerina has her own issues, obviously. She says, sure, let's do it. Actually, I know the perfect person that can adopt you, my little sister Clara. So Barbara, I keep accidentally like kissing the mic. So Barbara and Katerina come up with this perfect plan. They come up with the name Anika, nickname Anna. They make up this backstory of this character that they were essentially creating. Backstories of this troubling childhood, of cancer, fake cancer, an entire story that had to be sad enough for Clara to feel so bad that she would feel as if she had no other option but to adopt her. As we know now, it worked. It had worked so far for a year. It is 2006 now. Clara, Katerina, Barbara, who is Anna, and Clara's 2 sons have all now been living together for a little bit over a year. Barbara has successfully turned Clara against her 2 boys who are currently 7 years old and 9 years old, and Barbara is able to convince Clara to not only neglect her 2 sons, but also to start treating them as if they were not even human beings. We have another twist in the story. Yes, every time you think that this can't get worse, it does. Barbara, Anna, has something seriously wrong with her, we know that, but the apple does not fall far from the tree. Barbara's father also has severe issues. He is the leader of a cult. In this cult that he runs are various members, including Barbara, Barbara's little brother, and Katerina. Barbara and Katerina brainwash Clara, and she joins the cult. And keep in mind throughout this whole thing that Barbara in Clara's mind is still this poor little sick 13-year-old girl with cancer, and this poor little girl who has basically lured her into her family cult convinces her that she still needs to do a lot of work to discipline her 2 children, and Clara decides to take that advice. She agrees, and she takes her 2 sons to this camp in the middle of nowhere that is ran by the cult for them to be shown how to behave, basically. In that camp, those 2 children are treated with such brutality that it is even hard for me to comprehend, and warning, it is very, very, very hard to listen to. The boys were kept in animal cages where they would be starved. They were forced to wear collars. If they were not in their cages, like that sentence does not even seem right for me to say out loud, but if they weren't in their cages, they would be tied up to something. They were only ever let out of their cages to be punished. The punishments included putting bags over their head and using different kind of objects such as leather belts to physically harm them, amongst a million other different things. Cult members also told Clara that for her boys to become good human beings, Clara would need to cut off a little piece of their flesh. Every member in the cult would have to take a bite of that human flesh, and that ceremony would apparently turn the boys into good people. And that was done. That did happen. The way that that those kids were treated is horrific. I'm not even really going to go into detail on that because no one in the whole entire world should ever be treated that way, and it honestly just makes me uncomfortable to talk about. But days turned into weeks turned into months. Eventually, Barbara and Clara leave the camp. They go out to go house shopping for a new house for their family. One of the boys, Clara's youngest son, is allowed to leave camp and go home with Barbara and Clara, but the horrible mistreatment just followed him home. He was locked in a dark little storage room underneath the stairs, starved, tied up 24 hours a day for months. Around 5 months passed, and it is May of 2007. A man was at his house working on setting up the baby monitor. Couldn't figure out how to hook it up. Finally sees this horrific image on the screen, does not think that it's a real thing. Brings in his wife. They look at the monitor together and realize that they were picking up a live feed from somewhere else, probably from a house nearby, and they're watching this little boy who is locked up in these conditions somewhere in the neighborhood, so they call the police. The police show up. They are all looking at the footage together. They realize there's music in the background. The police walk outside to see if they can hear the music coming from any of the houses nearby, and they did. So they knew that that footage was coming from that house. The officers walk over. They knock on the door. Clara answers the door, acting stupid. She says she has no idea what the officers are talking about, but they force their way inside. They see the little room underneath the stairs locked with a padlock. They break the lock and they find the little boy inside. He was in horrible conditions, as I'm sure you can guess. He was lying on his own urine and vomit, clearly very unstable. He is finally taken to get medical attention and he has been saved. Authorities also track down his older brother and rescue him from the camp. Clara and Katerina are arrested on the spot, but not Barbara, because police are under the impression that Barbara is a 13-year-old girl named Anna, and they think that she is probably a victim of Clara and Katerina's as well, which obviously could not be further from the truth. But when this is all going down, Barbara is taken into safety as well under a children's home, but then she escapes and police think that she has been kidnapped by the Colts and taken away somewhere. And there was a massive search that took place for this little 13-year-old girl, but that means that her face was on the news, and someone that knew that Barbara was not a 13-year-old girl saw her on the news. They called the police and said, the person that you're looking for is called Barbara and she's actually in her 30s. And the police are bamboozled, as I'm sure you would be. Using DNA, they were able to confirm that 13-year-old Anna was literally just a made-up character and she was actually a 33-year-old woman named Barbara. Now this story is in the headlines. People are shocked, but Barbara is still on the run. She's hiding somewhere and they would not be able to find her for 7 months. Finally, they find her under a fake name hiding out in Norway. She was posing as a 13-year-old boy named Adam, trying to do the same thing again, but now she's finally under custody, thank God. The boys, now ages 8 and 10, slowly but surely began to recover. They had to be taught how to function like a normal human being again because they hadn't for so long. They had to be taught how to speak again. But once they could, the two little boys were incredibly brave and they began to tell authorities everything that had happened to them, all of the horrible things that they were put through at the hands of their mother Clara, her sister Katerina, and all of the other cult members. The boys ended up being released to their grandparents. They got custody over them and they got back in contact with their biological father, which they were very happy about, and all of them would help them heal and give them all of the love that they so deserved. Clara, Katerina, and Barbara all go to trial facing very serious charges. 3 of the other cult members who were at the camp were also facing charges, but not Barbara's father, the leader of the cults, because he ran away and hid from the world. They couldn't find him. In trial, Clara was remorseful. She was crying, saying that she felt bad. Katerina was defending Barbara and blaming everything on Clara. I don't know what her problem is. Barbara was just manipulative and trying to act like, poor me, I didn't do anything wrong. She actually tried to blame the 2 boys, saying that they deserved everything that they got. Clara, Katerina, and Barbara and the 3 other cult members were found guilty on all charges, but this is gonna piss you off. Clara was only sentenced to 9 years. She was released in 2013. Katerina was only sentenced to 10 years. She was released in 2014. Barbara was only sentenced to 5 years. She was released in 2010. And the 3 cult members were only sentenced to 7 years each. They have also all been released. Yeah, no words. This keeps me up at night. But let me know if you have heard of this case before. Let me know what you think. Thank you for spending time with me today. Hope you guys are all having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. I love you all so much, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.